In this podcast, I'm going to talk to you about 3 easy communication hacks to help you win more in corporate America. If this is the first time you and I have met, my name is Paul Leon. I'm an expert training specialist with over 10 years of experience. I've helped over 2,000 people level up their communication in consultative selling and human behavior training. So what I want to get into today is these hacks, but I'm going to start with a quote. And the quote goes like this: "An organization's real power and energy is generated through relationships. The patterns of relationships and the capacities to form them are more important than tasks, functions, roles, and positions." That comes from Margaret Wheatley, an American writer and management consultant. So let's get into it. So hack number 1, if you're in corporate America, and hopefully I'm going to assume for this podcast, you still have a career, you still have a job, regardless of whatever the news is saying. So the first hack is this: you always want to ensure that whenever you're communicating something, you always start with your initial ask, especially working with a leader. And I want to put this disclaimer out there. Everybody in your workplace is a CEO or they're the top level. So I don't believe in treating anybody based on their position where I work. I believe the janitor, the secretary, the CEO should all have equity in how you treat them as a human being. I just want to get that up front. And if you're somebody who's treating somebody different based on their position alone, you're hurting your relationship dramatically and you're hurting your personal brand. At least that's just my personal opinion on it. So you should always start with your initial email. This is hack number 1. Hack number 1 is always start your initial email with your upfront ask. And I also want to preface this by saying, start every email every day with a good greeting. I don't know what it is, but it drives me absolutely insane when somebody writes Paul, comma, and then the rest of it. I don't want to read your email. I'm not interested in it. So I would recommend that you always start your email with good morning, good afternoon, and then your initial ask. Don't start with their name, comma. That's very disrespectful and it's super rude. You should always start with good morning, good afternoon. And then once you're inside of a chain, maybe write their name or like, hey, person, because I think it's just disrespectful. So again, the first hack is start with your initial ask up front in your email communication. Hack number 2, very simply use bullet points. Believe it or not, we don't realize this sometimes, especially if we're in frontline work, and I've been in frontline work for a long time, how much stress, especially middle management, has. Now, I know I said earlier, you should treat everyone equal. And I also want to preface that middle managers, in my personal opinion, probably have it the most tough because they're managing the expectation of their team while managing the expectations of high-level leadership. So what you always want to do, and think about how insane that is, and I use the analogy of like a quarterback trying to lead their team with another team trying to tackle them from behind. And what you always want to do with that analogy is hack number 2, have bullet points. Always start with bullet points as part of your vernacular, especially if you're writing a much longer email. It's just easier for them to skim, kind of get to the point, and just extract exactly what you want. So you always want to start with the initial ask, use bullet points. Hack number 3, very simple, is you want to ensure, and this might be a little meticulous, but believe me, it pays off in the long run. Each bullet point you write, especially in longer emails, have it be no more than 15 words. There's actually psychology done by Harvard Business Review, especially my MBA program, where I'm going through this, that executives were polled in a survey, and that if a bullet point exceeded a certain amount of words on a PowerPoint slide and in an email, it actually created discomfort and irritation with the person who sent the communication. So you want to make sure that whatever the content of each of those bullet point orders are, do not exceed 15 words. I know this sounds super tertiary, but believe me, it will make a huge impact in how people receive your communication. So just to summarize, hack number 1, always start with your initial ask up front. Hack number 2, use bullet points. Hack number 3, make sure that your bullet points with words in them are no more than 15 words per bullet point when making your points.
Thanks for tuning in to the Persistent Managers Podcast, which helps managers and direct reports win faster. Join our podcast newsletter for more insights to win faster, completely free.